And hi, everybody. Welcome to Hannity's America. I'm Sean Hannity. We get right to our top story tonight. After conservative outrage, congressional negotiators have agreed to include the John Doe protections in the pending September 11th security bill. Now, the provisions offer liability protection for American citizens who report suspicious activity that they believe could be linked to terrorist activity. Now, the move stems from the flying imams from late last year. 6 Muslim clerics were removed from a U.S. Airways flight after passengers reported suspicious behavior. Now, this spring, the imams and their attorneys threatened to sue the passengers for discrimination. Tonight, we tell you the whole story of the flying imams, including our exclusive interviews with passengers on the plane who explain exactly what they saw.
Last November, 6 imams were pulled off a U.S. Airways flight in Minneapolis for what has been described as because of their Muslim heritage. But the captain of the plane and many of the passengers on board say their behavior was too odd to be ignored. Now the imams and their friends at the Council of American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, are suing the airline for discrimination. But that's not all. They have also threatened suit against passengers who made, quote, discriminatory phone calls to report them to police. They want to sue people who were scared by their behavior. Paragraph 21 of the complaint refers to them as John Does, quote, passengers at Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport who contacted U.S. Airways to report the alleged suspicious behavior or plaintiffs performing their prayer at the airport terminal. Some people say this is an attempt to frighten the passengers on the plane into silence. Some Republican lawmakers were so upset by this that they rushed a measure through the House protecting so-called John Doe citizens who report suspicious behavior. But what really happened on the plane that day? The police reports related to the incident have been made public and revealed many of the details. Before boarding the plane, the imams knelt and prayed near the boarding gate. In their statements to authorities, passengers noted this behavior as peculiar. An Arabic-speaking passenger revealed that some of the imams reportedly cited bin Laden and terrorism in their conversations and openly spoke with hostility about the United States for toppling Saddam Hussein. It has also been confirmed by Hannity's America that all 6 imams were the last, or so they thought, to board the plane, even though 2 of them with first-class tickets had priority boarding. A passenger told us that she and her partner rushed to the gate, boarding the plane right behind the 6. According to eyewitness reports and statements from the passengers, the 6 imams spread out like 9/11 hijackers. 2 sat in first class, 2 in the middle cabin, and the remaining 2 in economy. A flight attendant became suspicious after a first-class passenger requested a seatbelt extension. But according to the flight attendant, the passenger was too thin to need one. Last November on Hannity and Combs, we interviewed one of the passengers on the plane who asked that we only identify her as Pauline. You told me, Pauline, earlier today you thought that this was a staged publicity stunt. Why do you believe that?
Well, in my opinion, it had all that appearances because they were so poised and ready to go to the press. By the time I arrived home from the airport, which was immediately after they were released in Minneapolis, they were already announcing on the news that they were being discriminated against.
That woman and many of the other passengers are afraid to tell their stories publicly. One passenger we spoke to said he's worried about the attorneys for CAIR possibly suing him, but he also worried about the safety of his wife and children. But tonight, for the first time on national television, some of the passengers are breaking their silence. They also fear for their safety and have asked that we not reveal their identities. Here are their stories about what happened on the plane that day.
But we all were sitting down and these men just didn't get it. You know, we had our seatbelts on. We had been sitting down for 15 minutes and they kept getting up out of their seats, walking back and forth to each other from the front of the plane to the rear of the plane to the middle of the plane. For whatever reason, it just caused so much suspicion.
The 2 of them that were right in front of us were having a little trouble with seat belts, and they had seat belt extensions they asked for. None of these guys are real big. They're probably 140 pounds, the one guy, and the other guy who was on the other side of him was probably 160, 180, something like that.
But as soon as we sat down, and these men just kept looking back and forth to each other, and obviously wouldn't get in, sit down like they should have. That right away, everybody, there was something going on. Everybody was fearful. Passengers were kind of glancing at each other, watching them, comments. People behind us had comments about somebody should do something.
Not one of them actually that I could see, made a terroristic threat or anything, but just their demeanor, what they had done, the way they spread out in the plane, the way they'd been praying, the way that all this came together, the seatbelt extensions, and, well, it just wasn't right.
Yeah, we were frightened. I was frightened. The other passengers, started to become frightened.
I did something like that, I would be taken off the plane, thrown off the plane, probably thrown in jail.
No, I don't regret any of the actions. None. None. The airlines did exactly what they should have did. And if they wouldn't have done any action, there definitely would have been some action on the plane by the passengers. And when we got off the plane in Phoenix, I had, the crew was standing on the exit as we went, and I had thanked the stewardess and the captain, for watching over us.
I'm glad that they were turned in. I'm glad that they took them off the plane. They scared people. What was their intentions? I don't know why they would do something like that. But they're scaring people. That's terrorism. It's working.
These brave people have come forward to set the record straight about what happened on that plane. They fear for their safety and the welfare of their families.
But fear no more. Congressional negotiators just this past week agreed to include in the pending 9/11 security bill sweeping liability protections for so-called John Doe citizens. These individuals who report suspicious behavior possibly linked to terrorism will now be protected.
The Imams are continuing with their lawsuit against U.S. Air. It remains unclear whether or not they will also target the passengers on the plane as well. But if the passengers who spoke here tonight are any indication, many of them have gotten over the fear of the flying Imams.